All right, we are back with an all-new episode of the Disney Dudes podcast. This is episode number 35. Here I've got Disney Dude Taylor. And Taylor, who do we have with us?
We have the epic, the legend himself, Nathan Firesheets, the man, the myth, the legend, who rode every single ride that was functional in every single Disney park.
Oh, gosh. Taylor, you
in
did your
12 days.
research.
In 12 days.
Yeah.
Nathan, that's your cue. Days. What's up?
Yeah. Glad to be here. It's exciting.
I tell you, Nathan, we were talking a little bit before we hit the fun record button, and now we're on the spot. Like, this is it. No going back now. We've had the week from lack of a better word, hell, Yeah. And so this is going to be an out of the ordinary episode. I'm just going to kind of riff. I'm just going to kind of just lay it out there. But most importantly, yes, I know that you've been interviewed by, I saw Inside Edition. An article came out from USA Today. And I follow your Twitter feed, and Lord knows you keep us apprised on the comings and goings of Senor El Capitan Firesheets himself. But dude, tell us, it's, I know you've told your story time and time again, and whether you're so eager to tell it, or you're like, oh my gosh, another podcast, another idiot that's going to ask, another guy or dude, whatever name this is, whatever podcast, dime a dozen, Disney, this and that. But we want to know about you. I've heard about your trip, and I know, you're part of the Six Castle Club.
Yeah.
You accomplished this feat, and these are things that I can only imagine doing. I can only dream of doing, literally. But where did this start? Where did your love for not just Disney, but travel, theme parks, where did this start?
So, funny story. Growing up, so I'm from Atlanta, and we have this little kiddie theme park that I think is closed now. It used to be just northwest of the city called American Adventures. And I remember going there as a kid, and they had this little teeny tiny roller coaster. It was a powered coaster, and it had a buffalo head on the front of it. And I was terrified of that thing because it was loud, and it just made like kind of noise. And I didn't like loud things as a kid. And then I grew up and I became a drummer, and I got over my distaste for loud things.
Oh,
but just growing up, like, I was terrified of that thing. And I would ride it reluctantly, but I didn't like it. And then I did a whole bunch of reading in school, and they had this thing where you read a certain number of books or hours or whatever, and you got a free ticket to Six Flags. And I earned that ticket every single year for years and years and years. And I never went because my parents were like, he is not going to ride anything. He's not going to enjoy it. It's not going to be fun. So my first visit to Six Flags was in 6th grade on a band trip.
Okay.
And they divided people into the people that were like the uber thrill seekers and the people who weren't going to ride anything at all. And then they had a group in the middle that was the people who were like, I don't know if I'm going to like it, but I'm willing to give it a try. And I went in that group. And the very first thing we went on was the Georgia Cyclone. Now, I don't know if you know anything about the Georgia Cyclone at Six Flags Over Georgia, but it was a wooden roller coaster modeled after the Coney Island Cyclone, but incredibly rough and violent and shaky and all sorts of awful. And that was the first adult roller coaster I ever got on. And the whole time I'm going, I'm just like, please let this be over. Please let this be over. Please let's. And it just kept going, and it just kept going because it did like essentially like 3 full laps through the structure of just stuff. God. And like you think, okay, it's almost done. It's like, nope, a whole other lap still going. And I get off that, and I'm like, I don't think I like wooden roller coasters. But they were like, no, you got to try a steel coaster. They're smooth. I'm like, just do it. And we went over to the Georgia Scorcher, which is a stand-up coaster, and it had inversions, and but I was like, okay, I'll give it a try, and I had a blast. It was great. There are strategies to riding stand-up coasters, by the way. There are ways that you can do it and not be uncomfortable as a male. The general recommendation that I have is straight, and then bend your knees a little bit. And then when the restraint locks in place, then you stand up fully upright, and then your shoulders are going to be pressed hard up against the shoulder restraints, but it gives you room on the other end. And that room is very, very valuable. So for all the dudes out there, if you ever ride a stand-up coaster, use that strategy, and we'll be thankful. But I rode that. It was smooth, and I liked it. You know, I wasn't scared by the inversions or any of the other stuff, and it wasn't rough. And so it's like, okay, I can do this. The next thing we did after that was the free fall, which is a first-generation Inman drop tower that janky as all get out. But you go up vertically in an elevator thing, and then it pushes you forward, and there's all these like kerchunks and like noises and things, and then finally it releases, and it's a true free fall, like just gravity. But the track you're on, basically you drop and then it curves. So it comes down and it curves to flat, and so you end up on your back. Oh my God. And then it has this mechanism that like rotates you back down the vertical, and then you slide over. That was the first generation free fall or first generation drop towers. And I may have uttered some profanities in front of the adult chaperone, but they didn't seem to care because I think they understood. Yeah. But
I mean, given the context, yes.
Yeah, but it was fun. Like I liked it, and I was like, okay, like I can do this. And then I had some other opportunities on some other trips back to Six Flags when I got into high school. Yeah, I did Six Flags a whole bunch. My eighth grade year, we did a trip to Washington D.C. and we went to Busch Gardens Williams. Yeah. Yes. And that was a revelation because I rode Apollo's, which was fairly new at the time, and that blew my mind that you a roller coaster goes down. I thought have loop to be fun, and that was
real quick. I believe that,
but it's still great. That just. School. Yeah, there.
No, you're good. It's kind of going in and out just a touch, but no, we're getting the gist.
Network is my network.
But you got Taylor at you're good. The latency may be a little off, but you know what? It's perfect. You know, it's all relative at this point. But no, Taylor, what were you going to say, man?
I got a question for you, Nathan. So, isn't Apollo's Chariot the one that Fabio got hit by the goose or the duck? I want to say it is.
Yes. Yeah. So they were doing the meet, and Fabio got hit in the face, or I guess he hit a goose or whatever, and so he comes back to the station.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
It's the
and everything. Yeah, that's
great. The gravity of the ego just. The one ride that I remember from Colonial Williamsburg was it the Big Bad Wolf? The one that you're
I never got to ride that ride. It was closed the day we were there in eighth grade. And the next time I was back was many years later after it had already closed. Yeah. So that's the top of my list of defunct roller coasters that I never got to ride that I really wish I would have.
Oh man. Yeah. That as a child, my first vivid memory was, at least roller coaster, Space Mountain. And I've never had a situation where not only did I need, we dedicated a whole episode to brown pants. It was the brown pants episode. What rides require a pair of brown pants, right? In Space Mountain, when I was third grade, that was my first vivid memory of not just a roller coaster, but Disney. And it wasn't where I got hooked. It was where I did everything in my power to stay away from all roller coasters, to stay away from all elevators, to stay away from anything in the dark, just anything that made my heart rate go above 75 or 80. You know what I mean? So, but that being said, given your opportunity, you know, you're coming up the ranks, you've been riding all these rides, and you were, and you're compensating because you were telling me that you were deprived. You were deprived. You were held back from doing, even if it's something that just ruins me, even if it's something that absolutely scares the absolute crap out of me, that requires those brown pants. Like I said before, tell me, what was it? Was it high school where you started making the connection with Disney? Was it college? What?
Oh, so yeah, so the Disney
Okay.
thing is fun because we went to Magic Kingdom one time when I was a child.
Okay.
And that was all. I was 4 years old, and I don't remember a ton from that trip, but there were a few things that stuck out. One of them was signing all the autographs with all the characters. Watching my brother and my dad get on Splash Mountain because it was brand new then, and I was too small to ride. Doing It's a Small World, all the stuff like that. But yeah, that was the only visit that we had to Disney when I was a child. And then my senior year of high school, did a senior trip to Disney. So I had 4 days a day at Universal in high school, which was actually unbeknownst to us, and we literally stumbled on it at the end of the night. Was the soft open during the soft open for Expedition Everest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we had no idea that there was even a roller coaster in the back corner of Animal Kingdom. We're just wandering around, wrapping up the end of the night, and there's a bunch of cast members like, "Hey, come over here, come do this thing." And we're like, "What the heck is this? There's a roller coaster back here," and we just were able to get on it and just keep like lapping it over. And I think we rode 7 or 8 times, even after the park was supposed to have closed. They just let us keep going, and it was just it blew our minds. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually a few people that experienced the original Yeti.
You beat me to it. Yeah.
So that was
my gosh. So no, you're fine. I know. I caught that. You said you were one of the original people that got to witness the actual Yeti.
One of the few, yeah.
Yeah, one of the few. Yeah, pardon me. Yeah.
Actual Yeti. Yeah. So that was super cool.
So cool. But oh my God. Now, correct me. Now, my knowledge of this, just because I have a Disney-based podcast
for Disney.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Years.
Yeah.
After I graduated high school, my brother. Yeah, I think there's a 5-second delay at this point between what we're saying back and forth. I think it's gonna be great.
No, we're rolling with it. You're good. You are good because, well, if you hear this 5 seconds in the future, just wanted to let you know this has been an awesome episode so far. No worries. Yeah. So double thumbs up from me to you. But what I was going to ask you was, what I read somewhere was that the original Yeti was actually large enough to where it would actually it wasn't well conceived. They said that the actual motion of the Yeti was actually potentially going to throw out the foundation of the ride itself, or there was something to the effect of the reason why they didn't repair it from the original, from the time that you wrote it.
Yeah, so my understanding on the Yeti is that it basically was ripping the foundations apart, and for them to fix it, they would have to disassemble the mountain to get in there, and it would basically be a super long closure. Animal Kingdom doesn't have very many rides to begin with. It would cost a ton of money, and take one of the park's signature attractions down for months, if not over a year, just to get that done. I guess they decided it wasn't worth it. I might be completely wrong, but I think that's my kind of limited understanding of the Yeti situation. But we got to experience the Yeti. So I'm good. I'll take Disco Yeti for now.
Disco Yeti. That's great. Oh man. So now you put on your Twitter page, for context. And I made it a point, that if we were going to be able to have you as a guest on the podcast, to not look at it, to not even touch the context, to not even know what your rationale was to take this challenge. But what is the context? Why did you take this challenge? Because a lot of people think, seriously, the cost, the logistics, the this. I mean, I'm not even going to ask the how. I'm not even going to ask cost, because I can make whatever assumption I want. I want to know why, why this of all things. So what you got?
Well, for the while, but I think it's good to kind of pick up where we left off in high school, because after high school, and that really opened my eyes to coasters being even bigger and badder and crazier. A few years after that, I did another trip, went to King Island, some other things, and just kind of kept, as opportunities present themselves, visiting a few parks, riding a bunch of coasters, and having just a blast. And fast forward to my last ever spring break. I was in grad school, and I realized this is my last, time that I'm going to have, my last ever spring break. I don't want to spend this. I don't want to waste this. You're sitting on a couch in my underwear watching TV. I want to do something that's going to be cool, going to be grand, going to be memorable. And I decided that what I was going to do was fly to Los Angeles and visit Knott's Berry Farm, Disneyland Resort, Universal Hollywood, Six Flags Magic Mountain, because I'd all thought, hey, this would be super cool. Those parks look super cool. I'd never flown anywhere by myself before. I never rented a car, gotten hotels. I'd never done any of that before. And so I just said, you know what? I'm going to go do this. I'm going to try traveling. I'm going to try these parks. And in the process of planning that trip, I looked at whether or not it made sense for me to get season passes to some of these chains. And that led me down the path of a couple other trips later that year, including a 3.5-week-long road trip between the end of grad school and starting work full time, where I basically started from Atlanta and then drove up into, I think I went through Bowling Green and then up to Hollywood in Santa Claus, Indiana, and went west to St. Louis, Six Flags St. Louis, to Worlds of Fun in Kansas City, in the north through Iowa to Dakota and around, and from there went back to American Chicago, up the Northeast, New York, the East Coast, and visited a ton of new theme parks, all to one insane mega trip. So that was really where my crazy vacation started. Was that insane mega trip in 2012, with a single day at Disneyland on the first part of the first little trip that year. But it was that little trip that set the seed to make the bigger trip happen, which then has set the seeds for a lot of other trips since then. The next year, I had a work convention in Orlando, and I decided that I was going to visit Disney World because I hadn't been since I was in high school, and I was going to visit Universal because I hadn't been since I was in high school, and I was going to visit SeaWorld and Busch Gardens and a bunch of water parks. And so in an 11-day span in 2013, I visited all 4 Disney theme parks, both water parks, both Universal parks, Wet and Wild, which was their water park at the time, SeaWorld and Aquatica, which was their water park, and Busch Gardens Tampa. And I spent 3.5 days at this convention. And because I wanted to have context for what I was going to see and experience at Universal, and I'd never done it before, I read all 7 Harry Potter books cover to cover.
Oh, wow.
So I had a Kindle that I basically kept stuffed in a cargo pocket, and I would just read it while I was in line. wandering around, different parks and places. And that was that again. I work hard, but then I vacation hard. Like I don't know the meaning of the word relaxing vacation. All of my vacations are like crammed with as much stuff as I can possibly fit in them. Because if I'm just gonna sit on my tuchus and read a book,
Wow.
or watch something on TV, I do it. If I'm going to go somewhere, I'm going to experience stuff that I have there. And time vacation, go. And I've been okay. Disney World. That was my third visit to Disney World. So that one day at that point at Disneyland, I had another work trip back there a couple years later. Spent another day there, just a park hopper. My third visit to Disneyland, third time I'd ever been. I walked into the park.
Wow.
8:15 because I'd parked the Toy Story lot and I didn't realize I was going to have to take a bus. It took extra time because I didn't know what I was doing. I walk in 8:15, rope drop, and I see a Main Street vehicle in front of me. And in my mind, I go, these are the things that trip people up when they do those parkeology challenges in Orlando. Let me jump on it. I'd never ridden a Main Street vehicle before. I'd only been to Disneyland twice, but I got on it. And then while I'm on it, I go, I wonder how many rides did I ride? I didn't know how many rides there were. I didn't know it officially counted as a ride. I didn't know any rules. It wasn't a real challenge run.
Sure.
And so I'm just basically like trying to pull up the parkeology rules and the ride list and all this on my phone while I'm going. But I just started trying to ride rides. My phone died halfway through the afternoon, stopped being able to document any of it. And I learned always carry spare batteries.
True.
Learned that lesson. But I was able to ride 50 of the 51 operating rides that day. Actually, the 51 total rides. And the only reason I didn't ride the 51st, which was Radiator Springs Racers, was because it broke down at the end of the night and it didn't reopen. I had time to ride it. It was there, but it was broken down and it didn't open back up. So that was my third ever visit to Disneyland. And I had no plan, no strategy. I just did it.
Yeah.
A couple months after that, I was back in LA again for work. Wasn't really planning on going to Disneyland. We had just an awful time on a work project. And we were at the job site, I think, until like 2 or 3 a.m. And then, my coworkers literally, they went to the hotel, got their stuff, and went straight to the airport. And I went and slept for a little while, and then I went to Knott's because I had an annual pass to Cedar Fair. So I went to Knott's for a little while. I was like, this is dumb. I'm bored. I got done what I wanted to do. It took like 3 hours. I was like, I don't want to spend the rest of the day here. So I bought a 3-day park hopper to Disneyland. And I spent the rest of the afternoon that day at Disneyland, and I registered for a parkeology challenge the next day. And I said, look, I'm going to do one of these challenge things, and we're going to see what happens. And that was like Saturday in November of 2018. And I just went for it, and I succeeded. And I finished. I got all the rides. Like,
Man.
Got a at Disneyland. And then I went to bed, and I got up the next morning, and I was
good.
I did it again. So did it again on Sunday.
No, you're good. I heard you, and I'm just thinking, okay, you got sleep. You have to eat. You need sustenance, but you're an absolute machine. You are programmed to get up. The operative. I just think of like Terminator 2. You're seeking out the rides in front of you. What is it? uh, Critter Country, you're going to go up Splash Mountain or the Matterhorn bobsleds program to finish that now. It just but to systematically do it, but you got your proverbial feet wet. You got it, you kind of got into the motion of it. You kind of built up that momentum, and you kind of added more fuel to the fire. You kind of caught the bug. And that's something,
Yeah.
my motivation for Disney, not just with my family, but the conduit for me to do adult Disney trips with my wife have been Run Disney. I just did the Disney Princess half marathon. We struggle busted the whole way. My hips were hurting, cramping here and there. I may or may not have been running behind the scenes right past the Magic Kingdom because, the big to-do for that race is running through Cinderella's castle. But we were running, and I mentioned this to Taylor on a previous episode, but, that's neither here nor there. No big deal. Who cares? I tend to earmuff it when I say things like this, or at least try to tell other people online, just don't pay attention to, minute 35, second 34 of the podcast. But I was running, and I had to do my business for a minute. So I let my wife, Emily, go ahead. She was the pace setter. She went ahead. And I did my business, and I was running, and I saw a white tent. But of course, I'm dehydrated. I was not prepared. I thought that I was, mentally I was there, but physically, no. I was dragging the knuckles. I was, just, like a sauntering dinosaur, kind of just not having it, not feeling it, just not making it. There was a guy, and, he had a little bit of an accent. Okay, what am I? Who am I kidding? He had an incredibly thick accent, right? And he goes, Nestle. And I go, Nestle? And I'm thinking, oh, like a protein spread, right? Oh, yeah, perfect. Something that can kind of give me some energy, help me keep going. No, it was Vaseline. As soon as I put it in my mouth, tried to swallow it, regurgitated, spit it back up as I'm running, trying to just barely make it, trying to barely drag myself along. And I saw my wife in the distance trying to catch up with her. But I'm sitting here gagging and spitting up, and I ingested a huge dollop, dare I say, of Vaseline. I was like, as I'm running, I'm going, that's not Nestle. That's not Nestle. That's Vaseline. And I'm just saying these things to myself as I'm running, and people, I can remember in hindsight, they're just looking at me going, yeah, buddy, Vaseline, great, okay. What, the medic? I'm like, no, I'm trying to run away from the medic tent. He made me eat Vaseline, but no, it was a whole thing. But so I am not a machine. I am as mortal as the day is long. And sorry, I just got a text from Taylor. He had to bow out. He tried, and he said, tell him my computer died. It didn't die. He feels like death, and he wants to apologize profusely to you. So he tried. Lord knows it was a valiant effort.
No,
he is no Nathan Firesheets with the challenge, or me with the runs. So yeah. But for me, I'm all about challenging myself. I'm all about, motivation, whether it be through what I do professionally, but also what I do personally. And I love the fact that you were talking about, if I'm going to go on vacation, and this reminds me of another interview that I had with a veteran, and he goes by the handle Once Upon a Veteran on Instagram. And our main source of social media is Instagram. And for us, we tapped into this guy not only for our Run Disney episode, but to kind of get his perspective on what motivates him to not just keep going, but at the same time, he kind of told his story on where he was in the depths of his soul when he was going through hard times after one of his 9 tours in Afghanistan, right? So therefore, he told us that if I'm going to go on vacation, I'm going to make it a point to do anything and everything that is going to be action-packed, that is going to occupy my time. I've got plenty of time to relax when I retire, But while I'm still young, relatively young, while I'm still relatively, in it to win it, so to speak, he said, I had vivid memories. He's from Colorado, and he said, I have vivid memories of going to Disney as a child, growing up in Colorado. But he said, as soon as I turned the corner, I booked this trip, and just kind of on a whim, it had been 20 some odd years since I've been back. Because like you were saying, you had gone as a young child, or I think you said third grade ish. So no, even younger than that, so to speak. And then
I
you
was
said, he said
4.
senior trip as
I
well.
was 4.
He said,
Very
as
young.
soon as he goes, 4. Okay, pardon. So yeah, so you had some little bits and pieces of memories, but nothing substantial, right? Yeah, exactly. But he said as soon as he turned the corner on Main Street, right there at Tony's Town Square, he went, this is everything I remember, but so much more. Then he saw a sign fortuitously and serendipitously of before, they shut down all the, at least annual passes, except for Florida residents. And right then on the spot, he said he'd been in the parks for maybe 5 minutes. He went, without even thinking, I just pulled out my credit card. And he said, I have the means. And I just went, I don't care if I live in Colorado and I live closer to Disneyland. This is where I need to be. This is where I need to plan my vacation. And it's not just a Disney thing. It's just, what your passion is, what clicks with you. And to me, the way that I got, what caught my attention, not just your trip, but you as a person, I wanted to know what motivated you. And so therefore, the first thing that I remember seeing was your checklist. I saw something on Twitter and I saw your checklist, and I'm pretty big into Disney Twitter just for my personal account, not for the podcast, because our thing is we're not niche. We just we keep it small, but if it goes somewhere, that's great. And fortunately and unfortunately, it has kind of gone a little further than we expected. We've hit some top 100 lists, some top 10 lists here and there, at least the audio portion of the podcast through Spotify, right? But
Nice.
Outside of humble bragging on my end, so hey, have you heard of us? Until now, probably not. But here, let's talk about it some more. No, but for us, the connection was just finding something that we can relate to, but through social media, through the algorithm, and seeing your checklist, I'm like, what is this? What is this challenge? I said, this guy does, he can make a mean spreadsheet, right? And I get it, What is it that there's some kind of like t-shirt that's like an Excel t-shirt that says freaking the sheets or something like that. Excel free. It's kind of a play on words. And I was like, I need that. But I'm very basic when it comes to my Excel spreadsheets. I'm Captain Liberal Arts. So when it comes to higher education with what I do. But regardless of that, you've told us about the motivation behind your challenge and what kind of got you into it, but leading towards what you have repeated time and time again with many publications. And I'm now tapping into that. How did you start planning this trip? How did this, the motivation's there, the bug is there. This is what your passion is or what you're motivated to do. How did you put this together? And I'm sorry, I'm coming at you with 30,000 questions. I'll back it up. Had you been to Shanghai Disneyland? Had you been to Disneyland Paris before planning this trip? Or had you only been at Disney World, Disneyland?
So before I did the Disney Global Ride Challenge, I had spent time at Disneyland and Disney World. And I, in 2018, had the opportunity to go to Tokyo Disney, and I was able to spend 1 day in each.
Oh, wow.
Then. But I had never been to Paris or Shanghai or Hong Kong before, so I was really going in blind to this trip with regard to the parks. So it was all just the research that I did online, but I tried not to do too much research and spoil the first visit experience.
Sure.
So I wanted to know enough details to be able to navigate the parks, but not so many that surprises were spoiled and I didn't get to experience that magic for the first time.
Wow. So where did you start? Where did the epic adventure? I mean, we can describe it and dice it up, but to me, I advertised it on our little Instagram page. I was like, the epic Disney adventurer, Nathan Firesheets is himself. And what was the moniker, the nickname that I saw on Barstool? Nathan Fuego.
They called me Nady Fuego Linens.
And you seem like a really good sport. You seem like because I'm sure you kind of went, well, this, like you said before the show, they didn't contact me first. They just spit out an article. So,
yeah. So we got a lot of the background out of the way. After I
Yes.
did the Disneyland challenge, I started trying to do Disney World challenges. Did a bunch of those, succeeded at that, and then I did the Coast to Coast challenge, which a lot of people saw pre-pandemic, where I did everything at Disneyland in a day, and then took the red eye to Orlando and did everything there the next day. It was 94 rides in 36 hours, every ride coast to coast. I got a video on my YouTube channel, but I don't want to get super far into that. But I thought that was basically the end of challenge stuff for me. I was like, what could possibly happen after that that's going to be bigger and better? And the idea of trying to do anything global, it didn't seem to make sense because the Tokyo parks are so busy. They don't even let you do park hoppers. So there's no way you could do that whole resort in a day. And Shanghai and Hong Kong are small enough that, absolutely you can do those in a day. But trying to string it all together in a way, Coast to Coast was one of the perfect storm kind of situations. I think it's going to take a lot of really special circumstances before anybody's able to do that again. But there was no real idea of anything bigger or grander. Instead, what I started to do was focus on some more international travel. Last summer, I did a 2.5-week coastering tour of Germany.
Oh wow!
And I did a whole bunch of theme parks over there. I toured a bunch of things in a few different cities, a lot of history and museums and memorials, some food. I did a zip line tour through the Black Forest. I jumped off this crazy ridge thing at a dam. It's just all kinds of adventures and things. And it was great. And then I sat down last summer to try to plan, okay, well, what am I going to do with my 2023 vacation? Where am I going to go? What do I want to do next? And I started looking at the parks and things I wanted to visit in Europe. And a lot of them had already announced they're opening brand new world-class coasters in 2024.
Oh,
so it's like, okay, I don't want to go visit those parks in 2023 if they're opening stuff in 2024. So what can I do in 2023 in the meantime? I know. Let's go visit all the international Disney park. Cool thing that I could do with my year, and initially, I didn't have time to bring Disney people announced their $110,000 private luxury jet tour to all the parks and all this other stuff, and I went hogwash. I can do that better, and I sat down and I started trying to ideate what would it even look like to do one trip to all the parks if it were my planning. And I went, okay, I need this much time at each of these parks to enjoy it and string it all together. What would that look like? And that was very similar to where I landed. But I started in Paris, and then I went to Hong Kong, to Shanghai, Tokyo, to Anaheim, to Orlando. And I was like, okay, maybe around a 2-week trip. But at the time, China was still completely closed off. Japan was closed off. You certainly weren't going to be able to go between China and Japan. So I couldn't even look at what time of day or flights being offered. So I had to completely stop all thought or planning of that trip in August of last summer, because just here's this pipe dream, but until they lift all the restrictions, I can't even think about trying to lock anything in. And then every time, I just kept my eye on the news, and every time restriction would drop, I'd go, okay, we're one step closer, one step closer, one step closer. And then finally in January, the last restriction finally dropped, and it went, okay, this is now potentially viable. When can I afford to take 2 weeks off of work?
Sure.
So that's the second week of January, and I go, okay, I can go mid-March. That's my window. And then I started going, okay, if I do it in mid-March, what are the flight options? I can go kaboom, kadoom, kadoom, kadoom. Okay, I can't go Paris to Hong Kong to Shanghai to Tokyo because there are no direct flights from Shanghai to Tokyo. So I had to go Paris to Shanghai to Hong Kong to Tokyo. I had to figure out, okay, China has this visa-free transit program because they weren't issuing tourist visas. What are the requirements for that? Can I meet them? How does it work? I had to figure all that out. Hong Kong Disneyland isn't open on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I can't be there on one of those days. Air France only offers three flights a week now from Paris to Shanghai, so I had to plan that for a Tuesday night, Thursday night, or Saturday night. And so just laying all these things together, and then I finally went, boop, here it is. 12 days, a little bit of extra time on the front end, a little bit of extra time on the back end. Let's lock it in. And I started booking things and locking things in from there in maybe by early February. So maybe a month out for some of it. And then I didn't, this is going to sound hilarious considering how well I planned everything. I didn't know that I was planning my trip on top of spring break. So that I got to the point of booking my hotel at Disney World, and I went, why on earth are there no rooms? Why are $200 something a night? Oh crap! I am doing all of the world between the two busiest of the year, but it's locked in. I was committed. At the time,
Wow.
I didn't have I was going to be able to. And they now and I for buy it. So I was really glad that I had to do that and experience that. But you know, my Disney World strategy, but this very quickly went from not had to work just massive to try to keep track of everything and make sure I had all of my eyes dotted. Something like this, making sure all those details, because when you're in the moment, the last thing you're worrying about passing a little thing in the bag, so you just pull the fish like here's my there's a printout of my hotel's ads in English and in the local language to hand to the tax. The spreadsheet so that it would be form times the right and all that. I had to attach the picture to hit tweet because in the moment I have to deal with all of the little micro as an aggregator. So I front loaded as much as possible. One of the things I talk about on any in Tokyo, I'm there. And every of other stuff, and sometimes for that all up. The mental frustration that you get when it's just like, I just need to pull up this quick thing real quick, and just all of that aggregates the day, and you don't have some fun. And that was a perfect example of, even as much as I try to get a lot of those little micro things out of the way, when you're in the moment, you've got one of those, and it keeps happening over and over and over again. It takes you out of the enjoyment. But I was fortunate that I did succeed in getting all those things out of the way for all the other parks, and it was really just that little subset where they didn't have great cell service and they don't have Wi-Fi in the parks. Wow. And I just that aggregated together and just caused a lot of frustration that day.
Sure. Yeah, little things you underestimate. You know, you can only, and it's one of those, especially with a Disney vacation. Regardless, my thing is, on my scale, I'm lucky if I can make it to Orlando The fact that I've been to Orlando 3 times in a calendar year is, to me, mind blowing. But of course, you know, I have 3 little anchors. I mean, children. I can go places, but I get there slow. I
Yeah.
get there slow. And
Yeah.
and to top it off
I
with
do
dogs and all that
the
stuff
advantage
and whatever. But
Oh,
go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, no, I do have
So, but
the
that
advantage
being
of
said,
it's you can be a little more nimble traveling by yourself.
true.
You know, you don't have to worry about feeding
this is
people. And you know, tired by is you go. I don't know. Yes.
yeah.
You have to go. This
No,
Enhance,
and,
but,
I mean,
you know, it's
and
just
like I
not
said, you know, I get to relax at night, you know, and actually at work, I get to relax. I mean, yes, I have to sit there and think and I have to communicate, but at the same time, I'm sitting on my tail. You know, I have to move. There are certain points of the day where just my body's telling me, do something, do something. You're satiating any motivation that you have to be active. And so my basically, I go back to Wayne's World and I go, I'm not worthy. We're not worthy. You know, you're Alice Cooper to my Wayne's World right now. We are not worthy. But that said and done, getting towards the end of things, my question is, yes, you know, well, actually, where are you from? You said you're from Atlanta. Do you permanently reside
Atlanta,
in the Atlanta area?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm in
in the
upstate
Atlanta
South
area.
Carolina. Okay, you're in the
Okay.
Atlanta area. Well, I'm located in the upstate of South Carolina. And Taylor, who unfortunately punked out, he's based out of Virginia. And he and I got hooked up because his wife and my wife did residency together. Where we
Okay.
are. I'm actually located in Spartanburg, South Carolina, the big little city of Spartanburg, South Carolina, the Sparkle City hub city. But beyond all that, my goal, my bucket list, on my scale of things is, you know what, one day, gosh darn it, if I can do it, I'm going to do it. But if not, I'm going to do it. Disneyland. You know, I do plan to go to Disneyland and kind of work my way up from there. But if you had to, now that you have visited all 6 castles, you've been to all 12 parks, and how many total rides? Now, there was set criteria, right? Now, if a ride was being refurbished or was not operational, obviously you can't ride it. You know,
right. So this was every operating ride. If it was a ride that I was
Yes.
able to get on, you know, it
Yes.
counted. And so
Gotcha.
there were 216 was the final tally. That did include a few, you might traditionally call them transport things that I just started throwing in as a bonus. Yeah, I kind of wrapped up a little bit early on that last day, and I was trying to stretch things out because I really wanted to end during the fireworks. And so I took the very, very scenic route back to Magic Kingdom from Studios. I took the Skyliner to Epcot, and then I took the friendship boats across the lake, and then I took the monorail to the transportation ticketing center, and I took the ferry boat across to Magic Kingdom. So yeah, I padded the number a little bit with that, but I was like, you know, I can't just like just
no, you're good.
for an hour and a half on everybody. So I was like, everybody's like, yeah, count them. I was like, okay, that's fine. So it was 216 total things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that was the final count.
I'm going to back up a touch with what I have 2 more questions for you. I'm not going to hold you up anymore, but man, you're so patient. You do such a great job of just telling your story, and really, because I mean, I'm living vicariously, not only via Twitter, but of course I only do so much, but I see these, I'm like, not only the rides, but the food. I mean, because I mean, you even said, like, you commented and you said, oh, well, what do you see what I could whip up? I'm like, okay, easy, Turbo. You just got off Phantom Manor or whatever in some, you know, international location. Okay, we get it. You can, that's great. Okay, what else can you do? Okay, easy. Pump your brakes. No. Honestly, you said that cast members made some magic for you. Was it towards the end? Like, I think you said you were greeted. Was it at Magic Kingdom or Epcot? There was something, some post.
Yeah, so so Epcot was the first park that I did at World, and when I
Yes.
got off of Spaceship Earth, there was a crowd of cast members waiting at the exit, and I get off the ride, I sling my bag over my shoulder, I look up,
Yep.
and there's all these cast members there, and they just burst out into applause and start cheering, and I'm like,
Wow.
it takes me a second to realize that that's for me. And the one of them rushes forward with a bottle of water. And it's like, here you go. One of them hands me like a little souvenir pen. It's like, here you go. And one of them was filming the whole thing in the back. It was awesome. And they were just
That's
like,
awesome.
we're so excited for you. Go get the rest of them. And that was just, it was super cool, super encouraging. And then I go to Animal Kingdom, and the cast member that's at the turnstiles or tap stiles, I guess, letting people into the park was like, hey, I've been following along, keep going, you can do this. And then I go and I do that park, and I leave and I go and I do Studios, and then I come back to Magic to finish. Well, it's the second day, but I end up at Magic, and I'm in Tomorrowland, and I'm doing the Astro Orbiter, and I get done with that, and I come off the elevator, and it's all of the cast members that they could spare from the whole Tomorrowland area.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they had gathered, or had told all the people waiting at Astro what was going on. The elevator doors open, and I walk out, and it's just everybody there, just round of applause. Everybody's hooping and hollering and cheering. And they give me a Mickey pretzel with a cheese cup and a Mickey bar and like some, congratulatory bunch of stuff. That was super. Some photos of me. And I mentioned that originally my whole thing I was during the fireworks intro. Take everybody home. And it was like, well, what if something breaks down? If there's ever escape, but I would go back, write it, so that I can get my Astro. Things off. Just got to keep my eye on time so I can get back. You're right.
Man.
And I went, is that an option? Yeah. Fireworks go up, and
Wow.
they ran up their food chain, their leader, whoever, and they got them to sign off on it, so they rogue or anything. But nobody did it.
That's incredible. That's incredible. See, I mean, if you were here, the goosebumps. Because I mean, I've had little things here and there. Like, you know what? Write it again. You know what? Single ride. Because my wife and I, like Expedition Everest, we wrote it. We were just there, like I said, for the half marathon, Disney Princess half marathon, and we spent a couple days in the parks, and did like the after hours of Magic Kingdom. Earlier that day, we did Animal Kingdom. And they made our little version of magic was they knew we were together. And of course, we overdid it. We did like 7 times in a row. As soon as we got off turnstiles, right back in single rider. They go, let me guess, you're together? We're like, how could you tell? We're walking up together for the single rider. They said, if you want to, it's like, where do you want to sit? Do you want to be in the front? Do you want to be in the back? And we're like, can we be in the front? And yet they said, you know what? We're good. It was almost like we're part of the VIP tour, but yeah. So of course, if you wear them down and you're kind, no, but it's and yet again, I could go down a whole rabbit hole, and for me, unfortunately, adult ADHD is a real thing. I'm kind of like the embodiment of that. So once I'm like, oh wait, I want to ask you about this, but I had to stop in my head. We're going to go on this tangent. But no, for me, the last question that I had for you is, out of all the parks, and let's step away from North America. And I never thought that I would have this conversation with someone. You know what? Based on your experience, let's go international. If you had to compare Disneyland Paris and all the other parks, Tokyo Disneyland, and the one that just captures my imagination, I can only assume Disney Sea. But of all the individual parks outside of the United States, what is your number one?
So I'm going to preface this by saying
Okay.
that out of all 12 of the parks, if I could only get one of them,
Sure.
I would pick the OG Disneyland in Anaheim.
Really?
So, yes. So it has the most rides, the most variety, the most nostalgia. It's the
wow.
original park. Walt walked in it, has 11 opening day attractions. It's got 2 different nighttime spectaculars with the Castle Show and Phasmic. It's got all the classics, but then it's got new rides like Rise of the Resistance, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, and it's just got so much stuff, so much variety, all that stuff. And it's got a whole nother park, a 2-minute walk away across the Esplanade that's got world-class attractions there too. Wow. So if I have to pick one park, it is going to be the original Disneyland. Okay. Well, that wasn't your question.
Huh. I mean, and I knew that it was more rides per, at least per park, but
yes, outside of the United States.
Yeah, so just Disneyland itself, let's see. Has 37 rides if everything's operating. Comes
okay.
So, but and it's got that vibe, like it's not super spread. There is nice. See, World is. Everybody's like, I've been saving up for vacation for 15 years. Little Timmy's gonna have a great time. It's too long. I'll come back next time. I'll ride then, and they don't worry about it. It's not like this life or death thing. For your question was, what's my top international park? And while I will agree with you, Tokyo Disney Sea is beautiful. It is absolutely gorgeous. When you strip the theming away, it's still Toy Story Mania, Soarin', Tower of Terror, Indiana Jones. It's not super unique, super awesome rides. It's the same stuff that we already kind of know and are familiar with. It's beautiful wrapper, beautiful veneer, gorgeous. And when you're walking around the park, you feel like you're doing things, even though you're just walking around and looking at stuff. It really is amazing.
Yeah.
The rides itself are kind of the same stuff that we're already familiar with. But my pick is Hong Kong Disneyland.
Sure.
Shanghai is super cool. It's super modern. Kron is awesome.
Oh, wow.
Now, their Pirates is awesome. But my vote is Hong Kong. That's which is like if Big Thunder Mountain and Expedition Everest had a love child. There's some track. It's a really magical music box and all kinds of shenanigans ensue, and it's adorable. The effects are cool. The ride is fun, and I think we totally need more rides like that in America. They have Space Mountain, which is basically the same as the Disneyland space, which is my favorite space, but they're running it as a hyperspace, which I prefer the original. It's got really awesome music that just makes the ride, but the roller coaster itself is still great and awesome. And it's got a bunch of other things too. It's got a cool looking castle show is cool. But overall, if I had to pick a park, that's the park. It's got the cool, unique rides that I would want to sit there and re-ride over and over and over again. And it's got a lot of the little ancillary that I think add a touch of extra magic. Their Jungle Cruise has this super cool, like explosive finale that you got to look up a video of.
Wow!
Again, it's just they've got a lot of stuff there, and it's really cool. You should totally go check out Hong Kong Disneyland. want to go explore an international park. That's
Absolutely.
my
Very cool.
vote.
Man. Well, I mean, if man, I'm sold. I'm sold. I don't know how you are still standing. I'll ask you this: how long did it take you at least to feel like an actual human being, a man, after you were done with the challenge? How long did it take you to somewhat recuperate after that 12-day just bam?
So I never stopped feeling like a man. The humanity and everything remained throughout, but I will say my sleep cycle is still screwed up. I'm still not fully at the point where I'm
Oh, wow.
fully rested, getting full sleep, and happy about it the next morning. Yeah. So I'm still a little messed up. And this week was a convention, and so I had to get up early and then having stuff late, and then so I'm taking this weekend and just trying to be as chill as I can, even though I'm riding roller coasters and things. But I am trying to kind of not overdo it and get some rest, and we'll see once I get back into a full normal routine. Because I did all this, and then I was home for 4 days, and then I was back traveling again. So like there really wasn't a good period of rest. But I'm still working on the sleep piece. That's we'll get there though. Yeah, it'll be okay. But I mean, I went for 2 weeks on 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night.
I hear you.
So that takes a toll. It takes a while to kind of catch back up after that.
Sure. I can only imagine. I underestimate. There's no way you can overestimate that. What you did, the feat. I know that you have, like I said before, you have told the story time and time again. But I really do appreciate your perspective, and even kind of giving us, your nostalgia, your just what led you to this point, the motivation, the pieces that or the steps that it took in your story, the entire just process that led you to that challenge. I mean, to me, that's. I mean, sure. I mean, oh my gosh, let me try and parade you and let me ride your coattails. That's not the case here. My thing is, it's incredibly commendable. I mean, it's off the charts what you did, but at the same time, you as a person, that was the most motivating factor for me. And the end result of what you did is a true inspiration for not only for us, and I know I can speak for Taylor, in his absence now, which it's more of his fault than anything. But man, it's been awesome having you. I just really appreciate your time. Sorry for the delay in the communication. I know you said your Wi-Fi wasn't the best, and there's a little bit of a latency, but on my end, man, I mean, you knocked it out of the park with your patience on my end, answering my questions, and just breaking everything down for me. Man, there's no other words I can describe. I just appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hear anybody? And check out then I'll release enjoy.
I think we might be caught up, but regardless, I don't know if I got all of it, and I'm sorry about that. Oh, okay, man.
Well, that is the episode. I think our internet connection got lost, but man, Nathan Firesheets, he really brought it tonight. Not everything was there, but we really appreciate his time. The man, the myth, the legend, Nathan Firesheets, that did all 12 Disney parks in 12 days. And I think he said around 215 rides. Absolutely incredible. And what I'll try and do is I'll try and recap everything that he described to us in a subsequent episode. But yeah, thanks for joining us. And y'all have a good one.